bread of life discourse, Jesus says, "It is the spirit that gives life. The flesh is of no avail. The words that I've spoken to you are spirit and life." Does that mean that everything Jesus had just said about eating his flesh and drinking his blood is just a metaphor? Reading John 6 in that way doesn't just undermine the Eucharist, it undermines Christianity itself. While properly understanding this verse actually refutes the most visceral discomfort many of us might feel towards the Eucharist. At the end of the bread of life discourse, Jesus says, "It is the spirit that gives life. The flesh is of no avail. The words that I've spoken to you are spirit and life." Does that mean that everything Jesus had just said about eating his flesh and drinking his blood is just a metaphor? Reading John 6 in that way doesn't just undermine the Eucharist, it undermines Christianity itself. While properly understanding this verse actually refutes the most visceral discomfort many of us might feel towards the Eucharist.
Look at 6:32 through 33. Jesus said to him, "It's not Moses giving you the bread out of heaven, but my Father who gives you the true bread out of heaven. The bread of God is that which comes down out of heaven." He's speaking spiritually, not physically. Look at John 6:35. "I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will not hunger. He who believes me will never thirst." Is this a metaphor? Is this literal? Of course, this is speaking about spiritual matters, not physical matters. Notice what Jesus says in John 6:40, that he who believes and beholds in the Son will have eternal life. What do we see in John 6:47 through 50? "Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes has eternal life. I am the bread of life. Your fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, and they died. This is the bread which comes out of heaven, so that one may eat of it and not die." Is this speaking physically, or is this a metaphor speaking about spiritual life? The context is that Jesus is talking about his coming, his crucifixion, and pointing to his resurrection. When we look at John 6:62, he's talking about where he was before, ascending back to where he was with the Father, but it also is pointing to his resurrection. So when he says in 6:63, "The words I've spoken to you are not flesh that profits nothing, but the words I speak to you are spirit and life," that's what he's talking about. He even says, some of you, you're not going to believe it. He knew who those who wouldn't actually believe. That's why what he says in 6:67 through 69, "Where are you guys going to go? Do you believe?" And Peter says, "Where can we go? You have the words of eternal life." What about when Jesus said in John 3:16? John 3:16, "For God so loved the world, gave his only begotten Son." That's pointing to the cross. When he talks to the Samaritan woman, "The water that I give to you will be a spring of living water that will spring up to eternal life." Is this a metaphor or is this literal? John 5:24, "He who believes has eternal life, will not come into judgment." John 11:25 through 27, "I am the resurrection and life. He who believes in me has eternal life, though he may die." Is this literal, or is this speaking about spiritual matters pointing to the gospel of Jesus Christ? This is the context. Joe Heschmeyer is wrong.